Like, that looks great. Almost, not yet, not yet. We're waiting for Apple to say it's 6 o'clock. Now, okay, Chair.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Ready? Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors meeting on January 28, 2026. District Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Chair Roberts, thank you. First, our staff support today. Clerk to the Board, Andrew Jiraki. North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Director, Chiaselli. District Council, Jeff Munns. Director Helm is doing county business tonight at a Metro Regional meeting. Roll call. Director West. Here. Director Schrader.
Here.
Director Savas.
Present.
Chair Roberts.
Here. Thank you, Gary. Would you all please stand, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have a flag in the back of the room there. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. And now is the time that we open the meeting up for public comments. So testimony is limited to 3 minutes per person. I just ask those comments be respectful and courteous. As a reminder, you can also email comments to bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of our public record. I'll take in-person testimony first, and I always turn to our fabulous clerk, Andrew, to, if he'd be so kind to moderate the in-person and virtual testimony. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you're attending this meeting in person and wish to comment during general public communication, this is a reminder to please fill out a blue card that can be found on the table right outside the door. If you filled out a blue card and would like to come forward to speak, I'll ask you to please come forward, give it to me, and I'll call on you in the order that I received the blue cards. You'll have 3 minutes. This is a final call. If you're attending this meeting in person and wish to comment during general public communication, please come forward with a blue card, introduce yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Well, actually, I'd like to know if we could speak at the end, only because we haven't talked about anything. That's what I'd like to do.
Mr. Chair.
I think we can make an exception for that. I think just to let you know, typically what we like to hear testimony up front, and after we get that testimony, then based on what we hear, a lot of times is how we make decisions. But I think we can make an exception for today to go ahead and open it up at the very end, and we'll just make that happen for today. So.
Having received no other in-person requests to speak, Mr. Chair, would you still like me to check to see if anyone attending virtually would like to speak now? If you're attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment during general public communication, please raise your hand and I will call on you in the order that I see. This is a final call. If you're attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment, please raise your hand. Andrew DeMolin, I'll unmute you. You'll have 3 minutes.
Sorry, I was just raising my hand. I'm with the Trust for Public Land. Maybe this is not the right time for me to be raising my hand. I apologize.
This is not the right time. That's coming up shortly on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public, either physically or virtually present, who wish to comment at this time.
Right. Thank you, Andrew. And I'll go ahead and close the public comment at this time. We'll move on and I'll turn to Gary.
Thank you, Chair. Next is a presentation, a report from the Chair of the District Advisory Committee, Sheila Shaw. Ms. Shaw, would you please come forward?
Hey, good evening. Board of Directors, Chair Roberts, Director Selly, NCPRD staff, DAC members, and guests. Thanks for this opportunity to address you. Since we last met, the DAC has worked to provide meaningful input for another round of budget decisions, cuts that need to be made because of the dire financial future NCPRD currently faces. The environment for this work has been amid successful fundraising and recreational events in parts of North Clackamas Park districts. Grants are being awarded, and NCPRD is always on the lookout for alternative funding solutions. I was going to compile a list of supporters, but I worried that I would not be able to capture them all. So suffice it to say that we're grateful for all of these efforts and for the people who champion them. Please, however, do not let this distract you from the financial reality North Clackamas Parks faces. Without increased stable funding, we are looking at additional yearly budget cuts until funds are depleted in the fiscal year 2030, 31, 32. When I spoke to you last summer, I told you the DAC consensus is that NCPRD needs more funding. That urgent need for stable funding remains. As I was looking at all the support NCPRD receives from grants, volunteers, fundraising groups, it brought to mind the slogan, Heart of the Community. This was the slogan used for the recent community center fundraising events. Parks and community centers give us places to gather. Scheduled events and offerings give us a reason to gather. A strong parks district enhances our communities. A strong park district strengthens and provides a sense of community. A strong parks district looks ahead to the future. Without stable funding, we can't be a strong parks district. Thank you for listening and for all you do to support NCPRD.
And thank you very much. Hold on, maybe just a second. I want to open it up if there's any questions that anybody would like to have.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
See no other questions. So thank you, Sheila, for really outlining that. And I know that you, not only are you passionate, the whole DEC is really passionate on this particular issue. And I share that, you know, and I know my colleagues do as well. And I know they've also heard from me as well on some relatively frequent basis about our financial condition. So we're working hard to get in a better place. But I really want to say that the support that you all offer and the guidance and advice that you all give us is helpful. So thank you for your testimony. Well said.
Okay, and please continue to reach out to us if you want any feedback. I'm curious with our presentation tonight how the DAC is going to be able to support those efforts. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Gary?
Thank you. Next are two board discussion items. The first is a briefing on the status of the district's finances. Director Kia Selly will present. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Gary. Good evening, Chair Roberts and directors. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this update tonight on the district's finances. Although NCPRD made some service reductions for the current fiscal year budget to balance the budget, some of these impacted services have been restored through partnerships. The Milwaukee Community Center Foundation has generously funded 1 day of service at the Milwaukee Community Center, allowing a full week of service at the center. Also, transportation to and from the Milwaukee Community Center is now being provided up to 3 days per week by local nonprofit Impact Northwest using existing grant funds from Clackamas County. No NCPRD general funds are required. These transportation services are considered a pilot program through June 30th that we hope to continue next fiscal year. NCPRD staff are continuing to find ways to reduce expenditures as we progress through this fiscal year. And it actually appears that we are going to come in under budget this year. For next fiscal year, the challenge of district revenues not keeping pace with inflation persists. NCPRD staff are preparing budget reductions, as Chair Shaw was mentioning, for next fiscal year. However, the forecasted $622,000 funding gap that I shared with you last fall is now almost $200,000 less. So that's really good news. And that is really because staff made implemented cost-cutting measures last fiscal year, and we're doing it in real time this fiscal year. To close the funding gap for next fiscal year, staff are considering a range of new revenue and some additional budget cuts. So just to begin, the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation and the Friends of the Oak Grove Community Council, part of the community campaign, are stepping up with generous donations for the Milwaukee Community Center and for this community center here at Concord. We're also considering a range of cost reductions in recreation to eliminate low-performing classes and events that aren't meeting our cost recovery goals, as well as some events that really were serving primarily an out-of-district constituency, like the fast pitch tournament. We're also making some innovative operational changes that will save money by better utilizing our workforce, such as extending the fall shutdown at the aquatic park. We're also considering postponing the recruitment of some unfilled staff positions, but not a reduction in force of currently filled staff positions. So that's really good news for our workforce. Year over year, cost cutting for an organization as lean as NCPRD has been challenging for both staff and for the community that we serve. You can see from the financial forecast in your packet that without new revenue, budget reductions will be required each future fiscal year and will increase over time. NCPRD staff are committed to delivering as much service to the community as possible with the available funds, but we do need a long-term solution that provides financial stability to better serve the community and to implement that vision that you all adopted last fall, the 2025 adopted system plan. So this concludes my update, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Directors, I'm sorry, I'm looking for the light. Go ahead, Commissioner West.
Thank you for that update, Kia. Lots of good news. Still have the underlying issue in which we are all aware and concerned about. You mentioned something in your report about a change in the scheduling or the times that the aquatic center may be open. Can you expand on the impact to services or what that looks like for that asset?
Yeah, so thank you, Director West. That's a great question because it's a little in the weeds, but it will impact the community that we serve. So we typically shut down for the month of September at the aquatic park every year so that we can do all of our maintenance activities. We drain the pools, we do a lot of caulking around the pools, we fix equipment. So it's a time for us to really do everything, work in the locker rooms, while we don't have community members there. Extending that shutdown will allow us to really use our full-time staff instead of our part-time staff to do that work. So it's more cost effective. We will also be able to do more work in a shorter period of time. We'll reduce basically our reliance on chemicals and things like that, utilities, and being able to drain the pool in a time where we typically don't have a lot of people visiting. The end of summer and September are really busy family times with school starting and people taking their end of summer vacations. So we also actually see less traffic and less revenue. So it really is kind of a perfect way, again, for us to maximize the use of our full-time salaried workforce. And there will be some impacts though on like our lap swimmers and people that come every single week to enjoy the aquatic park. So I want to be clear, it's not without impacts, but the impacts I believe will be less than if we were to cut another program that has sort of a peak registration.
Director Sully, what's the increase? It's always a month in September. What are we looking at now?
So we're going from 4 weeks to 6 weeks.
Okay.
So we're adding a week in August and a week at the end of kind of between September, October.
Okay.
Just to add to this, as I read the packet here, Director Selly, you still have a gap of 414,000 that you need to cut, and what you just mentioned was one of the strategies, right? It in and of itself won't solve 414,000. It's the 5 issues you have lined out. So, could you just share what those other strategies are for my colleagues?
Oh, sure. So what you have in the board packet are detailed, all of the kind of the areas that we're looking at, accessing to close that gap. So it's a combination of cost cutting, but also we are actually going to add some new revenue through the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation and the Heart of the Community campaign for this community center. So that's the positive, right, is the revenue increase. So that closes a good portion of the gap. And then this is the menu. In your packet, you see some of the recreation programming reductions and the targeted hiring freeze. Think of that as a menu. And so whatever remains that new revenue doesn't cover in terms of the gap, we will then access these other options. And I would say that the aquatics annual maintenance shutdown, that 2-week extension, that's top on the list. I'm at this point in time certain that we will implement that particular reduction. Janitorial, we will implement sports and enrichment class reductions. We believe that's actually kind of a sharpening of our pencil, to be honest. These are a lot of these classes, there's always a constituency for anything that we cut. So I want to be sensitive to that. However, a lot of these classes that we're looking at and programs, they require us to do a lot of costly marketing, and they don't achieve any of our cost recovery goals. So it's important for us to really take those off of the list, if you will, before we look at more popular programs. And then the special event reductions, a great example is our winter celebration. We had it actually here at Concord Community Center in December. And there are a lot of other celebrations in the marketplace. So the attendance was relatively low based on prior years. And so we'd like to offer things that are going to have better attendance if we're going to spend the time and make the investment to bring the community in. And then the last one, the tournament and the league event cancellations, I shared with you the fast pitch tournament. A lot of those tournaments, while there are some leagues that are local that will be impacted, the largest number of leagues that are served by those types of tournament events really are from outside of the district. So the district resident taxpayers are paying for kind of out of district activities. And so we feel like that with budget reductions, that's probably another good place to cut. The targeted hiring freeze, we are looking at implementing that for some positions, but not all unfilled positions, because as I was explaining to Gary today, our organization is extremely lean, and there are a few places like in maintenance and in recreation where I think that we should actually fill a few of those unfilled positions. Does that answer your question?
I think it was Commissioner Saul.
Or Director
Yeah, well,
Salas?
thank you. Yeah, thank you. I thought to just discuss that for not only our benefit, but for the recording and the people in the room would be good. So the prize is still in front of us, and we're going to work to fix it.
Am I correct? A number of organizations rent out our sports fields and our facilities. How do we do an analysis about where we're at comparatively, like are these low, high? Is there room there for stable funding for usage fees for our park systems?
So thank you for that question. And that's an excellent question. And it's a lot of science, but a little bit of art in how we actually establish the fee. So we do actually rent out space here, like at this community center and at the Milwaukee Community Center. We also rent out fields. We try to balance the cost recovery. So when we rent out a space, we try to capture the costs of garbage cleanup and staff actually being available to support the users of that space, and any kind of impact, especially the like turf fields, sports turf fields have to be maintained a certain way. So we try to balance cost recovery with accessibility. And I think we've talked about this a little bit before, that as a public recreation organization, we try to be affordable to people who can't access private clubs and other types of private assets. But we are definitely trying to do more cost recovery. And I really appreciate the board's new cost recovery policy. That's been really helpful. And last year, we actually took new fees to you, and we will bring updated fees to you as well. We're continuing to slowly increase our fees. We're trying not to shock our community members. So we're trying to, again, provide accessibility, slowly increase our prices so that we can do more cost recovery while still maintaining public access and supporting the community that we serve.
Director Slade, does cost recovery include the ability to help stabilize loans funding for the district, or is it just for the use of the facility for wear and tear? And but is there any room there to say, hey, X amount of percent extra can go back to the overall general fund coffers to help support the district as a whole and use it as an asset to help stable funding? And maybe it means we don't have to have such a high millage rate when we address that issue. We're trying to use our assets to also produce revenue that's, you know, stable and longstanding.
If we charged the community for what it actually costs to heat the space or cool the space, irrigate fields, cut them properly during the growing season, we would be well above market rate. And so our goal is always to capture 125% of the cost so that we could send some money back to the general fund. I will share with you that has been a huge challenge because we price so many people out of the market. So the goal is 125%. And what I mean by that is we would basically cover all of our direct costs and then some of our indirect costs. But we are not there yet with all of our programs. Could we get there? I'm skeptical because, again, I think we might price people out of the market. But that is ultimately the goal. And when we bring our fees to you, actually, I believe it's next month, you'll see some new tiers that for new fee schedule tiers that we are trying really hard to implement over time to get there. But again, I don't know if we will ever get there with all of our fees to that 125%.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, directors? All right, this is information only, so I think we'll go ahead and move on, Gary. And thank you.
The next board discussion item is review of a technical assistance request to the Trust for Public Land to research district funding options. Kia will present this as well. We have some guests that are joining us. This is meant to be a discussion item. However, if you're comfortable at the end moving forward, there is a sample motion in your packet. So it's up to you how you'd like to move forward. But we'll start with the presentation. Go ahead, please, Kia.
Okay, thank you, Gary. So Chair Roberts and directors, last October, the board authorized staff to hire consultant services to conduct research on the district funding structure to improve the long-term financial sustainability of the district. Tonight, I'm pleased to present a comprehensive proposal from the Trust for Public Land to prepare a funding feasibility analysis, assess community preferences, and if the community is supportive, put forward a ballot measure for voter consideration. As I've shared before, of the 5 park and rec districts in the state of Oregon, NCPRD has the lowest tax rate, 54 cents per thousand. By comparison, and I think I included a table in your staff report so you can see all of the 5 districts side by side in that table. But I think it's notable just to call out that by comparison, the Bend Park and Rec District, which serves a similar size population, their permanent tax rate is $1.40 per thousand of assessed value. And then they have levies and bonds on top of that. With this low permanent tax rate that has not increased since 1990, expenses are just simply outpacing revenues. So the proposal before you this evening is intended to start the work to remedy that issue. The proposal is really a result of NCPRD's long partnership with local nonprofit, the Intertwine Alliance. That's where we started this work last fall. The Intertwine plays a critical role as a convener and coordinator of regional park and recreation service providers to ensure that our work is coordinated across jurisdictional boundaries to maximize our collective resources. I want to thank the Intertwine Alliance board and the director, Tara Wilkinson, who's here tonight, for this new partnership with the Trust for Public Land. The proposal before you this evening would inform board decision-making with data, and the work is phased so that the board can make decisions at each step in the process. I'm going to refer to the Trust for Public Land as TPL, so forgive me for the acronym, but their proposal is three-part. The first phase of the project is a financial feasibility analysis that will include a comprehensive assessment of existing funding programs and strategies and funding mechanisms. And what I mean by that are like, is it a levy? Is it an increase to the permanent tax rate? Those types of mechanisms to complement those programs. A review of the legal and political processes for implementation and evaluation of various alternatives, considering like ballot measure history. You'll recall that in 2014, NCPRD had a ballot measure that didn't move forward. They're also going to look at constitutional and statutory limitations and fiscal conditions and forecasts. The second phase, and so there's a pause right there. And I would bring this information to the board so that you could really digest that data. The second phase would then be public opinion polling. And that, of course, is to understand attitudes towards finance mechanisms that are identified in the feasibility research. So there would be a couple of key questions. And polling really will tell us whether we have a green light to proceed with a ballot measure based on community input, and if so, will inform the ballot measure design and the language. TPL is committed to listening to voters, and I will tell you, this is really one of the compelling reasons why I wanted to share this proposal with you tonight. Their ballot measure success rate is over 80%, so I think that's really a testament to their ability to listen to voters. If a ballot measure is supported by district presidents, the last phase of the work would be to prepare and implement program recommendations, such as to nail down what kind of mechanism should be on the ballot, the specific purpose of the funds, what are we promising to the voters with when we receive those funds, the duration of the measure, the timing of the vote, the specific ballot language, and any management protocols. So again, the board would have an opportunity to pause after that polling and make a decision as to whether or not you're all comfortable moving forward. TPL's work would be informed by their national network of experts. TPL has advised numerous park and recreation organizations within the state and is currently advising Willamette Park and Recreation District on a similar measure. Lead contributors to the project would be Nathan Henry, TPL Western Conservation Finance Director, and Andrew DeMullen, TPL Research Director. He's available tonight online, and Nathan is here in our audience. So both of them are here tonight if you have any follow-up questions. The TPL Foundation would also generously agree to fund the majority of this work, allowing NCPRD to focus limited resources on community information and engagement. When the board is ready to proceed with this work, the technical assistance letter request that is included in your board packet would need to be approved by the board and signed by you, the chair. This letter allows TPL to initiate the work funded by TPL Foundation resources. I want to be clear that signing this letter doesn't obligate the board to any particular outcome or limit board decision-making in any way. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, so, yeah, so, my first question is, when do we think that all the work and the recommendations and the polling will be complete? Summertime or September, or what do you?
So the feasibility analysis and if you elect to proceed with polling, My understanding, and I'm looking at Nathan right now to see if I can get a head nod, would be, my understanding it would be before summer, correct?
Correct, we would.
Nathan, would you please
Nathan,
come to
yeah.
the table?
Thank you, Nathan.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
Thank
Would you
you.
just please come up and introduce yourself again for the record?
Thank you very much. I'm Nathan Henry. I'm the Western Conservation Finance Director at Trust for Public Land. I also want to make sure to mention that my colleague Andrew Mullen, who's our research director, is available online. He lives in Boston, so was not able to attend in person tonight. So what we would do is we would basically look at the date for which you need to, the final date for which you would have to refer the ballot measure in order to get onto the ballot, say in November, and work backwards from there. So we would want to make sure to have the polling in hand, for example, in plenty of time to make sure that we have time to formulate the ballot recommendations and our program recommendations. We'd want to have the feasibility research done in plenty of time so that we could have the polling done. So we don't have to commit to a specific calendar, but we would start with the date, the final date for referral, work backwards from there, and set up, one of the first things we would do is set up a schedule that we would follow in terms of executing this project.
Okay, well, thank you. That answers my, one question, and just so I'm clear, I think it is clear to me that all we're authorizing is the work to be done and the analysis and all that. That's what we would be authorizing and asking this company to do.
That's correct.
I like that. So I know about you because I know that we worked with you before on projects. I think it was in the Canby area years and years ago. Can you explain to folks what your nonprofit and what your mission is and why you do this work?
Absolutely. So the Trust for Public Land is a nonprofit organization. We're a national nonprofit organization. We have quite a presence here in Oregon as well. I specifically work on the conservation finance team. So it is my job to work with communities, with districts on measures exactly like this. And our goal is really to give you the information that you need to make the best decisions possible for moving forward. So, I mean, we want to take the uncertainty out of the equation. So you know how voters feel, you know what your options are, and then you're able to craft a plan for going to voters that frankly has a good chance of success. So that is what my program works on. We have other folks at our program who work with districts, with communities on things like park creation and park funding and land purchases. So I will freely admit that that is well out of my scope of work. But you know, we're really proud of a lot of the work we do in that realm as well. And just recently actually did a ribbon cutting up in is kind of around Scappoose for a big Tualatin Hills sort of research forest / mountain biking region. So we're very proud of that work. Want to just kind of refer to Andrew, see if he has anything he'd like to add.
I think you're doing just great there, Nathan. As you said, we're part of our conservation finance program, where my role is to work on feasibility studies that help local communities, states, counties, municipalities figure out ways to generate public funding for parks, open space, wildlife habitat protection, wildfire protection as well.
So I'm just looking at some of your projects here. So there is a 5 mile, you're all over the nation, 5 Mile Creek Greenbelt in Texas, the Los Angeles Green Schoolyards Initiative, the Long Island Greenway. I also think in New York on Shelter Island, I think you saved a whole area that was a riparian area, if I'm not mistaken, because I visited there numerous times. And yeah, so your work is national, and I'm looking at the amount of acres you have protected, and boy, Broome County, New York, or Connector Trail, Blackstone Elementary Community School. But yeah, where have you been all our lives? This Appalachian Trail work. So I'm so happy this connection has been made, because I think it's going to move progress this like incredibly forward.
Well, and if I could volunteer, you know, we're a national organization, but I live right up in Westmoreland in Portland. I ride the trolley trail quite often, and my family utilizes the North Clackamas Aquatic Center. So this.
You've got a vested interest, yeah.
Indeed, yeah. So this actually has, I have a personal motivation for wanting to see this through as well.
Okay.
And just really honored to be able to work with TPL to potentially partner with you in this effort.
Thank you. Yes.
You're not a director, you're.
I'm not, but may I ask a question, Sharon?
I know, I was doing.
I'm always looking at the money, so I want to ask again. There is no cost to the district for all 3 phases of this project?
Correct.
And how do you do that?
Well, the reason we ask you for a technical assistance letter is because that allows us to access foundation resources. So it basically takes it out of the realm of, say, lobbying and puts it into a realm of nonprofit work. So by having that technical assistance letter, then we're able to access our grant funding to be able to provide the feasibility research to provide, usually we pay for a portion of the polling. The district would not be responsible for the other half. We would find other private funding to cover that as well. And so there would be no cost at all to the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Thank you.
And I was just not sure if I should call you a county administrator.
Oh,
So.
district,
Administrator.
district administrator.
Okay,
Call me Gary.
Director Salas.
Yeah, well, thank you for your participating in this work to put a proposal together, and I want to applaud, commend our staff for doing a lot of great work. Not only for this, but also for other grants that are really gonna potentially build the Jenny's Lodge Park with grant monies and so forth, so, and not really tap the general fund. So you're doing some miraculous work. I just want to applaud everyone in the room, staff and everyone. So the fact this doesn't really cost anything, and we're gonna have a lot of information, I think, is of great value. I did want to just share aloud that the Board of County Commissioners, which that's our other hat, we're not here tonight in that capacity, are currently studying a menu of options for a public safety levy currently. And so we're looking at certain cents for a certain amount of services, you know, maybe a little bit more for other services. So we are examining that. Is there any potential that this could be a construct that if we are extremely sensitive towards household incomes and cost to households, and if it looks like there might be an exorbitant offer, there might be one that's less exorbitant, or maybe that's not even the right word, but will there be any tiering or options for the board to consider?
Yes, and that is the purpose, frankly, of our feasibility research and our polling. Our feasibility research lays out what the options are, and then there, as Director Sully said, there would be a pause, consider our options. A poll can't be structured to examine 100 different options, but it could be structured to examine a couple or 2 or 3 concrete options. And so that's where we can look at things like different amounts or even different mechanisms. In other districts, we've looked at different election dates, for example. Is a May electorate or a November electorate? So not necessarily saying those are strategic questions you'll be looking at, but our research is really designed to try to help you sort through those questions. And then ultimately make a good decision at the end.
Yes.
Oh, sure, if I may just add to that response. Thank you, Nathan. So the county assessor's office has already created a model for NCPRD where we can plug in different millage rates and see what kind of compression might impact revenues as well as what the total revenues might be. So we already are starting to put together the infrastructure, if you will, to test different millage rates, because we are, as NCPRD staff, very sensitive to the community that we serve. As I mentioned earlier, when we were talking about cost recovery, we really don't want to impact individuals and households. So I think this model will be very helpful, and we of course will share that with TPL for their work.
Yeah, well, Director West.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Savas stole my question a little bit. The current millage rate is 54 cents per thousand, correct?
Correct.
Not that far off from the actual current public safety levy, and I believe in its cost.
Reference to the other districts.
Oh, it is significantly lower. If you have a $500,000 house, it's about $270 a year, about 22 bucks a month, right? And I don't know the districts, what the average, assessed value of the homes in the district are, but I think 500,000 is a pretty safe, a good number to kind of think of. I'd be interested to know, and I'm excited because one, we don't have to pay for this, and there's a pathway to have nonprofit and foundational funds help us. It sounds like your guys' work is exceptional and you have great outcomes. Fantastic partner. I'm glad that this is I'm heartened by that direction we're going in. It's just, every one of these gives me, I just don't want to fail, right? I don't want to fail. I don't want people to, we have that no gas tax on some ballot this next year, but we don't know exactly which one. But that has so much angst behind it. Again, it has me nervous for all of these issues that we have to address at the local level. It's not going to be on the May ballot. There's no pathway for that with all the research we have to do, and that's around the corner. So May, but it could definitely be ready for the November ballot. I'm seeing a head nod. But if you double that, you're talking about somebody paying 44, 45 bucks a month out of their like monthly budget. And then, then there's the public safety levy, and then there's this super controversial, super hot issue around the transportation taxes that are gonna have people riled up. I like the direction we're going. I like all the legwork we're doing, all the due diligence, being judicious in our approach, trying to be wise in our approach. So I support this moving forward. I'm comfortable already with if somebody wants to make a motion based on your presentation and the trust we have in you, Director Sully. But I do find still, I'm a little nervous about just the political realities in which we're in. Can I give this back to you?
I got, actually, Andrew gave me a copy.
I got a copy.
On the very last page is a copy of a letter. But whether we do that tonight or whether we do that next week, but
This letter?
yeah, that letter.
So I'm gonna go to,
Yes, Andrew from the Trust Online has his hand raised to speak.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to chime in and say, this whole process really hopefully takes the guesswork out of Election Day. There is a world where we do our feasibility work, we do our polling, and the polling numbers just don't look great. And we might say to you, this just, we don't recommend this go forward. And so, that's an outcome that happens. It doesn't happen a lot, but it's a possible outcome. We wouldn't, advise putting something forward that we knew through our feasibility research and our polling, that is underwater.
yeah, if I could comment. Yeah, so one of the things, first of all, you're sound like you have incredible background and knowledge about this issue, and so it sounds like you've done some incredible work. So I wanted to give some examples in a minute, but my experience has been doing some public safety levies, right, and polling. And one of the things that also concerns me, polling is very expensive, right? Polling changes very quickly, and particularly what's happening across the country economically. And so my only issue would be is really making sure that polling is somewhat done relative to can we go forward or not. And I think that the timing of it is really important because it can become stale. I've seen it happen where, we initially had one thought, but economically a lot of things have gone downhill and then it turns around and fails. And so, and sometimes we even go back for a second poll to try and make sure, but that's kind of one of the things that I think, however that timing is, and I'm sure you guys have lots of experience in that. What I thought I'd like to hear from you is talk to me about some successes, what went really well, and maybe talk about some of those that were a challenge for you. And it sounds like you've got just a broad, and most importantly, this board wants to be supportive and would like to hear your thoughts as some of your background on that.
Sure. Well, I would say that most recently we worked on the Portland Parks measure last fall. And that ended up passing with, I believe the final number was 57% of the vote. We did much of the same process for that. I think one of the reasons that measure was successful, and frankly, they're asking for a large increase in a time where, there is some real tax hesitancy in the electorate. What I think that they did really well was before putting something on the ballot, they made sure there was buy-in. So for example, they made sure the Metro Chamber was on board with their measure. And part of the process of deciding what the measure would be, they made sure that other community stakeholders were part of the process. And so you didn't have nasty surprises come up when it was on the ballot. They were in a campaign trying to pass this thing. And so I think that was a huge part of it. They did public opinion polling, which frankly was pretty well aligned with what the final result was going to be. And in that polling, they looked at different levels. So they looked at, I always think it's a good idea when you do polling to have a more conservative option and a more ambitious option, just to make sure you know what your options are. And so they were able to do that kind of research beforehand. And then that really helped guide the development of their ballot language. Obviously, there's a whole second phase of this, a campaign that would be privately funded, take place outside of this process. But just from my experience on that, the real keys to that measure were, one, having the information, two, the real investment in community engagement and getting local stakeholders on board and behind the measure ahead of time. And then three, just, frankly, running a good campaign.
And I think you can tell me this. I mean, to run that campaign, is there a dollar figure that you can talk about, or is that something that what it would take to be successful?
I wouldn't want to
I
put a
hate to
number
put you
out
on the
there
spot there.
like that. What I would just recommend, obviously, it's helpful to have a campaign and to have somebody out there communicating with voters, making the yes case. Why is this important? What is the district going to lose or gain if the measure is passed or not passed? I would want to do a little bit more research before putting out a number like that. And obviously, again, that process would take place, it would be a privately funded campaign.
Right. And then how about an example of challenges or maybe where it didn't go as well?
I'm going to defer to Andrew on that question because Andrew has been with TPL a lot longer than I have. So Andrew, would you care to field that?
Sure. Thanks, Nathan. Well, the quick one was a measure we were working on in Knoxville, Tennessee, this past November. They had a sales tax measure. We were brought in sort of middle of their process. There was already we didn't do feasibility research. There was already opposition building. Opposition is something we do everything we can to avoid. The polling showed that the measure would get a 39% yes. We told them not to go. We still, did everything we could to support the campaign, even though we knew it was going to be a loser. It did garner somewhere close to 39% on election day. It was a sales tax for capital projects throughout the city. And these measures, we advise them not going forward sometimes because, a failed measure can set you back sometime. And that's what we certainly hope to avoid in these situations. And so, we're hoping we get a day where we can kind of do our full suite of services in Knoxville, where we can get some, get ahead of it, get some good polling numbers back, pick a good election. Election timing is hugely important. try to, counter opposition when we can. That was something we couldn't do in this case. But, hopefully they'll be back.
Perfect example why we should listen to you. So, that's all the questions I have.
I'd be willing to make a motion, although Paul, do you want to make?
I just want to make a comment and, I know there's a couple of people in the room who remember this, but I think it's worth saying because a lot of people aren't aware of this, but back in 2009, when we had that recession, the 07 recession forward, which really, we didn't get ourselves out of that till about 2011, 2012. But during that time, the Oak Lodge Sanitary District Board down the street, which I was on the board, was facing about, really $100 million wastewater treatment plant improvement, and we did value engineering. We had, came off a prior vote where people said, do you want to merge a clock? It was a big political upset, and the voters just basically said, hell no. 85% of the voters said, hell no, we don't want to join Clackamas County. But we were left with this liability of rebuilding this treatment plant. So long story short, we really engaged the community in probably one of the most transparent, engaging ways I've ever seen. And slightly before we actually went and beat the streets, we did some polling and from a very reliable company, DHM. And the polling came back and said, Mr. Savas, good luck. On your best day, you're gonna get 35%. On your best day, it's gonna go down. It's gonna go down bad. We predict about 31%. And I think one thing you gotta remember with polling, and I've been in public places a long time and wear a lot of different hats over the years, is that polling's a moment in time, right? And I took that polling at that time as something instructive and informative. We had a lot of work to do. And we already knew that we were gonna go door to door. Area of about 35,000 people, actually this area, but not the size of the district, but a good portion of it. And we went door to door. I went door to door and knocked on every door. And I know that other members, our ambassadors, members of the advisory committee, a number of people, everyone campaigned in their area to get that out there. And no, we passed it by 85%. No, was it 85%? 86%. Passed it by 86%. So it's doable. I don't look at the polling as a determinant. I look as a polling as a piece of information at a moment in time and how much work you got to do. So I believe, and they believe in the project. Now, I think the Parks District is a lot more sexy than a sewer plant. Any day of the week. So I'm optimistic, and I think the good work that we have done, this district has done, this facility, there's so much positive synergy right now. I think we need to keep that momentum and capitalize on the moment we have and let the voters decide, but we need to do a lot of good work. And I believe we have a lot of champions in our community that would help. So
Can I make a motion?
please.
I move we approve the technical assistance request to the Trust for Public Lands as presented.
Second.
All right, Director Schrader has moved to approve the technical assistance request of the Trust for Public Lands as presented. Director Savas is seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, will you please call the poll?
Director West,
Aye.
Director Schrader,
Aye.
Director Savas,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, Gary, what's next?
Thank you. Next is the consent agenda. Andrew, would you please read the consent agenda?
Consent agenda for the North Clackamas Parks Recreation District Board of Directors. Item A, approval of meeting minutes from October 29th, 2025, North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board meeting. Mr. Chair, that concludes the NCPRD Board of Directors consent agenda.
Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Right, Director West has moved to approve the consent agenda as read. Director Schrader is seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
I,
Director West.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye,
Motion passes 4-0, Mr. Chair.
thank you. And Gary?
Chair, I recommend this would be the spot to add the continuation of public comment, if you agree.
So I'll reopen the public comment section and I'll just reiterate what I had said earlier and just again, keep your comments at 3 minutes. Be respectful, courteous, and you can also email comments to vcc@clackamas.us and these will be accepted as part of our public record. So we'll go ahead and take the in-person testimony. So clerk, would you help us moderate that once again?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have received 3 blue cards. This is a reminder that if you're attending this meeting in person, wish to comment, to please fill out a blue card that can be found right outside the door and deposit with me here. I will call on you in the order that I received them. First, Thelma Hagenmiller. Thelma Hagenmiller, please proceed. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Board of Directors. You've done an unusual thing this evening, Mr. Roberts, by allowing us to speak at the end of the meeting instead of having to do it at the beginning of the meeting. And I recommend that you consider doing that at some of your other meetings, because a lot of times things come up in the meetings that the public would like to talk about, but they have to wait for another week before they come in and do that. So when I used to go to the fire board meetings, I would ask to be both able to speak at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting. So just a comment, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I think you're missing a bet in the Parks District right now with this facility. My vision for this facility, because my kids went to school here, and I know how many classrooms this facility has. And I know that there are people out there in the community that would like to have a space where they could teach somebody something. Gary's father, what does your father teach? Tai Chi?
Tai Chi.
Tai Chi. And this one here, the same kind of thing. So I would like to see a program where you allow the people to volunteer to come to this facility, because they can't do it in their homes. But if they have a facility where they can volunteer to teach the community things, we used to have something called community schools. And I know I took several classes at community schools where a volunteer taught those classes. That's basically all I want to say. So.
Thank you.
Next,
Introduce yourself.
oh, my name is Anita Blackmar. I used to be on the DAC, and Chair Roberts and commissioners and everyone here. I am just thrilled about the Trust for Public Land being part of the picture. I think they're the gold standard for that kind of organization, and I've been starry-eyed about them for a long time, ever since I started reading some of their research about how many parks constitutes enough parks for a community. And they research that all over the country, and there's a lot of great information on their website. So I just didn't want to sit there quietly. I just had to say, this is fantastic.
And Martha was opening it up on her computer, showing me all of it. So-
Yeah, I was.
So, very nice work.
I think I remember the park. I think it was Masonic Preserve on Shelter Island, New York, which, actually, I know about it because, my ex-husband's great-grandfather, Jasper Kane, was highly involved in making that happen. So that's where we first knew about it. And I think we also did a riparian zone along the Willamette River in Canby, Oregon. So you don't have to have me talk again, because I just gave it.
That's all right. Did you have anything else?
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I'm Grover Borderfeld and I'm a local resident, and I wanted to replicate some previous conversations that some of you may have been part of. I think we have great momentum that is building. And from all of my years, I ran nonprofits for 25 years, and before that I was in corporate and et cetera. But that is to inspire people about where you're going. and what you want to do and what you're going to do when you get there. And that I hear in what they're speaking of, but I really want to, the fact that every time I come onto the site, every time I drive by and see the lights on in the library, almost at any hour, there's a crowd of kids out there and their parents, etc. We can keep building on the successes we have. And that's the part I want to keep focusing on. There's the fact that we only have 54 cents per thousand and we're the lowest. That is not inspiring. It is what the trajectory we're on, where we're going. And oh, by the way, it's going to cost some more. Because like they say, people pay for things that inspire them. So that's the main thing I want to say. And I appreciate what Commissioner Savas said. I remember when I am more inspired by parks and libraries than I was the sewer thing, but we did vote for the sewer thing, so. But the other thing I want to speak to is the partnership. Unfortunately, it gets too siloed. The library is not the parks and parks is not the library, but I'd like them to work together more. And I love what Thelma said. We have all this square footage here. How can we make use of it? Can the county send down people to have offices open here? Because to go to a lot of the county offices, if you don't have a car, it's two buses and a transfer. We could, on the second Tuesday of every month, have somebody from this department come down and have office hours, etc. It's things to make things more available, because right now we have more people who are homeless, without cars, not making ends meet, and to be able to bring the services to them is the part that fits right with the people who want to teach classes. I was a student until we lost our facilities with Gary's dad for Tai Chi. And I want to get back in there. I'm getting stiff. No, anyway, but the thing I want to really speak to is we have a heck of an opportunity. And I want to look at it the positive side. And then the last thing in this very room is when we just got permission we made the request, Baldwin and I, to change how the NCPRD Board of Directors became the Board of whatever the heck we're called, the District Advisory Committee. That happened in this room, but it was to expand our reach and our involvement. So I'm thrilled we're going to have alternates, but I also want to have people have more of a part of participating, so that we have listening sessions in my sub area, and I come back and try to explain that over there. I want this room to be full of those folks, so they already know what's going on. We talk about that. That's going to take more work to expand and get more people included, and that's all I want to speak to. We're going in the right direction. We'll keep looking at the positive side and encouraging people, not shaming them.
All right. Thank you very much. So do we have any more?
This is a final call. If you're attending this meeting in person and have not yet had the opportunity to do so, to please fill out a blue card and bring it forward if you wish to speak. Mr. Chair, seeing no other members of the public physically present wish to speak, with your assent, I'll move those attending online again. If you are attending this meeting virtually and wish to comment and have not yet done so, this is your opportunity to please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. This is a final call. If you're attending this meeting online and wish to speak, please raise your hand. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public physically or virtually present who wish to comment today.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and close the public communication portion for the second time, and I'll move on to the next thing unless you have anything, Gary. All right, our next is Director of Communication, and I will turn to Director Schrader. Do we have something?
Yes, District Director update if we may.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'll start with
Thank
that.
you. So I'll keep it brief, but I have more good news to end the evening on. Some of you already know this, but I think it's worth repeating that the Department of Land Conservation and Development has awarded NCPRD a $140,000 grant to help fund park improvements at the park at the Jennings Lodge campus. So this DLCD grant is one of several funding sources, excuse me, it's been a long night, that we're leveraging to construct the park. And with this grant, we will now have 1.95 million in grant funds, which will cover more than 75% of the cost of construction. So in my career, this is really unheard of. I just want to say that this is just incredible work. the board approved 2 different applications to DLCD. So you had a hand in this, and I want to thank you for that. And also, planner Alex Gilbertson, she actually, when we were first denied our initial request, she went back to the DLCD staff, asked them how to make the application more competitive, redid that work, resubmitted it to you, and that's the award that we received. So it's really about persistence, and you've been a part of that. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank Alex Gilbertson too.
Thanks. Right. Anything else?
That's it. Thank
All
you.
right.
Now, Director of Communications.
All right. I'm on to Director. You're
I
on.
already said my piece.
Are you sure?
Okay, yeah, I am.
All right. Director Salas.
Well, I really appreciate the spirit of the meeting here today, and I just want to say that to sit here now, it's almost surreal that we're actually meeting as the NCPRD Board of Directors on an NCPRD piece of property, and we know that the next meeting will be here, and the meeting after that will be here. So we actually have a home, right? And staff has a home here, and the community has a home, so. Jerry, go back.
Commissioner West.
Thank you. Director, so we love reports of funding coming in that is not coming out of our general fund, so that is great news. I am heartened and optimistic that whatever headwinds we might face with going to the voters and asking for more money, we can withstand it because there is momentum, as Grover spoke to. But it's the people in this room, and sometimes there's even more people in this room that are so dedicated to be ambassadors for the Parks District. That's much more impactful in your communities than we can be as directors, you know. So we didn't have the same type of engagement into the Parks District that you guys all offer us. I would be much more skeptical. It doesn't mean we wouldn't go for it. It doesn't mean we won't try. It doesn't mean we won't make the pitch to the voters. But Commissioner Salas talks about this long history of engagement and door knocking and talking to neighbors and using the data that is given as a bellwether of how hard we really have to work to get the outcome we all desire. And I mean, 86% of anything is a big win. So that's very impressive. So I look forward to seeing how this plays out. I'm optimistic because of all of you. And it is encouraging when we have the kind of ribbon cutting and community engagement that we all just experienced on that beautiful day. And opening the park and seeing the library, and even already we did a walkthrough as a board, already just how awesome and beautiful this property is from when it was still kind of covered in construction dust just a moment ago. So, and I remember my first meeting as a director was in this building. It wasn't this nice. It didn't smell this new when I was here. And the air conditioning definitely was of a different working order than maybe what it is now. I can remember those things when I was here. But this is pretty encouraging, and all of you guys have a lot of history. Your children went to school here. This has been a fixture in the community. So it is not always, and it's not always the case that you get to do projects like this and show you can get good projects done, and you can do it creatively on a shoestring budget and continue to move the ball down the field. So because of that history, I think we're going to get there. And it's an honor to be a director, to help work with all of you to see that come to fruition, hopefully even further in the near future.
Thank you, Director. Just a couple quick comments, and I'm going to start off by pointing this direction and thank Mr. Munns, and Kia. I just have to tell you, I see how hard these folks work. They put in lots and lots of hours, tackle very difficult issues. I mean, and one thing I can just tell you, you know, is that I feel very blessed and fortunate to have staff like this work for the county to really step up and help us accomplish really some challenging, tough things, and their professionalism here. And just want to say it's an incredible honor. I look at this building and the colors, and you know, very artistic. It's gorgeous here, and I want to thank you for that. And want to echo what my colleague said here. I love the optimism, and it is about a community coming together to make this happen. But I'm not gonna sugarcoat things. It takes a lot of hard work, it takes tenacity, and it takes being strategic. And I can't tell you enough, and that's why I have a lot of faith and trust for public lands research, because it also depends on what is on the ballot. And a lot of times I've seen stuff, a lot of money measures, and people will get upset and they just vote no on all of them, right? And that is why really, I feel like years and years ago, it used to be easy. My dad was a principal and worked at a college, and I was out there pounding signs, and a lot of times we would fail. And really, over the years, it got more strategic to get these money measures passed. And so that's my only really strong issue. I'm thrilled we have such talent to help us move in that direction. And just kind of one closing thing, as I hear about the money for Jennings Lodge. So I grew up in South County, but I went to Jennings Lodge in kindergarten and first grade. I still remember my kindergarten teacher, who was just the most amazing lady in the world. And the principal, I don't know, it might have been the principal's office at a young kid, because I remember his name, Mr. Reynolds. And but anyway, to see really what's happening at Jennings Lodge, it's just incredibly exciting. And so and just kind of lastly is just this, commissioners and directors up here, we really are working hard together. And I really believe that's what, it takes to accomplish these things. We might disagree on issues, but you know what? When we finally decide, we all move ahead in the same direction. We want to get it done. So thank you to my colleagues here. And if there's nothing else, Gary, I turn to him always, because he helps us keep us in line. We'll go ahead and conclude tonight's North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors meeting, and thank you all for joining us.